So 126 referrals for fixed penalty notices to the Criminal Records Office for breaches of COVID-19 regulations. And here is how it works. It's amazing, really, isn't it? Because pointing it out, even, and I'm trying not to be too boastful about the new figures, because obviously gravity will kick in, and I'm sure the normal order of things will resume at some point. It's not normal for the mid-morning show to be the most popular programme on any radio station, so I'm making the most of it while it lasts. I'm not necessarily thinking it will. But just because we explain it regularly doesn't make much difference, does it, really? I told you that this is how Boris Johnson operates. I told you it doesn't matter how awful it is. He postpones any action until he has no choice. And quite often he postpones it so effectively for so long that he never has to make any decisions at all. So it's incredible to reflect upon the fact that the Prime Minister of these islands told you there had not been any parties. It might be worth digging out some clips, actually. He told you that there had not been any parties. There were, in fact, 12 parties, 8 of which now have been found to be in breach of the coronavirus regulations that Boris Johnson imposed upon the country. You imagine waking up now, if you've been in a coma for the last, 3 months? So you lived all the way through the pandemic. You dealt with the privations and the difficulties of lockdown. You did it in good faith. You did it willingly. You did it honestly. You did it to the best of your abilities, and you've woken up today to find out that not only did the Prime Minister ride roughshod over them and surround himself with people who were giving the rules absolute contempt, treating them as if they didn't even exist at all, but they're going to get away with it, I think. I don't know for sure, and that obviously is going to be the phone-in. Spoiler alert. I don't know for sure, but this is how he works. I've seen it happen so many times. You almost get a little bit, I don't know if bored is quite the right word. Frustrated is probably closer of describing it. This is what he does. And I know that this is also how he conducts himself privately as well. He won't do anything until he has no choice. And quite often he passes the point where a choice has to be made. So you were told that there were no parties. How do you process this if you're still a fan? How do you process the fact that he told you that? Do you know what you have to do on some level? You have to start claiming in your inner self, not just publicly to other people like me, but your inner self now, you have to start claiming you don't mind being lied to. And do you know when that happens, populations are in peril? If history teaches us anything, it's that when significant parts of a population start lying to themselves to somehow safeguard their regard for a political leader, that's terrifying. That's when the worst stuff happens. It's quite incredible, isn't it? It's quite incredible. You have to now tell yourself that you don't mind being lied to. In fact, you have to tell yourself you quite like being lied to when it's him. You know, with his cheeky, chappy, bumbly, fumbly hair. Because it's him, isn't it? Oh, yeah, I mean, honestly. And that's how he's got away with it in his private life as well, in his personal life. That ridiculous prepubescent grin that he does, the sort of, I don't know quite what you'd call it. You'd call it a sort of Billy Bunter-esque faux charm that's designed to convince Nanny that the boys should be allowed to have pancakes tonight. And that's him. That's all he's got. It's all he's ever had. But we live in a society where that kind of attitude is venerated, where that kind of background is fetishized. But you now have to tell yourself that you don't care about being lied to. You don't mind being lied to by the Prime Minister who made the laws. And if you can't quite do that yet, then you'll be going, well, what about Keir Starmer? To which, of course, the very simple response is Keir Starmer has said he'll resign if he's found to have broken the laws that he didn't make. So what have you got left? Nothing. Look what he's robbed you of. Look what he's stolen from you. with his obfuscations and his prevarications and his barefaced lies. Look what he's stolen from you. He's stolen something priceless from you, Boris Johnson, if you're still defending him. He's stolen some of you. He's stolen some of your integrity. Happens to everybody. You don't just have to be close to him. You don't just have to be one of his sexual conquests while he's promising to leave his wife, or one of his closest colleagues who he'll stab in the back in a heartbeat if he thinks his own position is being threatened. But just simply voting for him now involves being sullied, being dirtied. Because look what he's done now. He told you there weren't any parties. And there were 12, 8 of which were breaking the law. He told you he didn't go to any parties. But he did. And he has been referred to the Criminal Records Office for doing so. He told you that he may have attended a party, but he didn't realise that it was a party. And that's the next bit of the Boris Johnson modus operandi. The thing that you know isn't true, and that I know isn't true, and that he knows isn't true, and that he knows you know and I know isn't true, but we can't prove it. So he'll get away with it. Just like he can persuade Nanny to let the boys have pancakes after bedtime. Just like Dominic Cummings did with Barnard Castle. You know he was lying. I know he was lying. He knows he was lying. But he was Boris Johnson's little pet at the time. He was like Dobby to Boris Johnson's Lucius Malfoy at the time, and so he got away with it. Because how can you punish Dominic Cummings for lying to you when his boss is Boris Johnson? You know he didn't drive to Barnard Castle and back to test his eyesight. He knows he didn't drive to Barnard Castle and back to test his eyesight. And Boris Johnson knows he didn't drive to Barnard Castle and back to test his eyesight. But it doesn't matter because we can't prove it. So you go from there being no parties to there being parties, but I did not attend them, to there being parties, but I did attend them, but I didn't know there were parties, to there being fixed penalty notices referred to the ACRO Criminal Records Office for breaches of COVID-19 regulations, and on his watch and in his empire there were 126 of them. 126. 126 middle fingers flicked at the country. 126 middle fingers raised and pointed at everybody who couldn't visit a care home or couldn't attend a funeral or couldn't see their first grandchild except through a patio door. 126 crimes. But he got all the big calls right. And at least your passport's blue. And something economy, something, nonsense, something. And here's the thing. I think he'll get away with it again. Because I've seen it happen so many times before. Postpone and prevaricate. I don't know what Sue Gray would have to look like in order for this narrative now to change. I don't know what Sue Gray would have to reveal in order for the embers of our collective fury to burst into flame once more. I haven't got my calendar in front of me, but it's not long ago we were looking at epic nationwide disgust and rage. But he's been dealing with that all his life. Imagine if you cheat on your wife like it's going out of fashion. How much store do you set by her heartbreak and her fury? You've seen it a million times before, and you sit and you wait until it burns itself out. And then when you're bored of watching her process her heartbreak, you move on to another wife and you cheat on her. And then you move on to another wife. And you watch the fury when you let them down. You just watch it burn out. And now he does it like the country. He does it to the country. He's just sat there smirking, waiting for the fury to burn out, waiting for the fury to die down, waiting for the anger to dissipate. And you're going along with it.